Hello everyone, it's Uncle Destiny back with you. I apologize for being so late with this reading for this month. It seems that the full moon we had back in late August was quite a doozy, and took quite a while to address some of the things that came up from that, both professionally as well as personally, which also required some downtime for myself. So here we are to get the recording for this month out. So we are now coming up on this month, the equinox between summer and fall, which is a point at where we're going to have equal day and equal night. Equally, we will be shifting out of summer and into fall as we approach the second time of going into the fall and winter months with COVID in our lives. And I do want to encourage anyone and everyone to get yourselves vaccinated as much as you possibly can. If you're ready for a booster, good. If not, get initially vaccinated. But continue to take this seriously. I know there's great need for getting out and spending time and taking vacations. And if you do so following procedures and caution. Don't throw it all to the wind, because the time and the world is not over yet. And we're not exactly finished with all of this. So tread carefully and keep your eyes open. So let's go ahead and get the ancestors in and see what they have got to say. Alrighty, we have thrown the bones, and here we be. Our dice came up on the 6th house. So September continues to focus on health, fitness, organizations, and acts of service. And again, how are we focusing on making sure that we're taking care of our health and the healths around us, the fitness of ourselves and those around us? How are we making sure our organizations are, again, serving the highest possible good for everybody and not just a select few or a select set of ideas? And then how are we also operating from the highest act of service, but not allowing that service to be misused, be taken advantage of? When we look at the Adinkra wisdom, we have the gunpowder kirk. And this is basically a gourd that in ancient times, when gunpowder was brought to the continent, it was used to keep the gunpowder in dry, because they were basically given muskets, and that's what they would use to refill the muskets with. And so this is something that would have only been carried around by gunners, and considering the way that gunpowder operated and so forth, you were also extremely brave to be carrying that around, because again, single spark, it would basically go off, and you'd basically have a bomb on your hip, or on your back, or wherever you were carrying it. Of course, this powder could not only be used in the weapon to provide the defense, the powder itself, when put in the right way, like with the gun kirk, could be a grenade and an explosive. So it did provide defense, but it was also a representation of power, and also just how much powder was within inside that single few grains of gunpowder. Now, why does this connect in with the aspects of health, fitness, organization, and acts of service? One, when we talk about health, you need to make sure that the powder that would have been in this gun kirk stayed dry. If it got wet, it was useless. So when we're looking at our health, and also what happens with COVID, when it enters the lungs, it basically causes people to essentially drown in their own lungs. So you're trying to keep your lungs dry. You're trying to keep the powder dry. There is much bravery that is being taken in facing these things, and that's going on in these locations where we are dealing with the sick and those who are struggling to survive through this. We are looking at bravery that it takes to try and keep just the world running. And that brings us back to our fitness. How are we taking care of our fitness? And our fitness is not just what working out at the gym or going for a walk. It's also the fitness of mind and the fitness of spirit. And Then there's also the defense. How are we listening to those things that can protect us? Not just in the aspect of washing our hands from wearing a mask, but also in making sure we are vaccinated and that we are not going into large crowds that we don't need to be going into just because we need an escape. And that is also leads into a sense of how we're also either working with or working against organizations that basically take advantage of the power that they have or the power they've been given. And this also goes into who are we putting in charge of those things. But at the heart of this is all, how are we acting from a place of service? Which means that the good in what we are doing is about those around us, not purely about ourselves. So when we come back to the bones, keeping that all into base, this one here is the home bone. Not as much I'm going to be worried about that one. These two, on the other hand, this is the work bone, this is the social bone, or family bone. So over here with the home bone is near 6, so we want to make sure that especially since we are moving into fall and winter, we want to make sure that our homes are healthy. We want to make sure our homes are fit to be able to take care of the weather. We want to make sure our resources are organized within our home to be able to take care of ourselves as we move into fall and into winter. And how are we making sure that our home is acting as the best act of service for us? And we also have the crystal here, the quartz. And as I've often said, the crystal is about memory. It's about crystallizing the thoughts and the choices that we've made down in the past. It is that aspect of keeping their history. And we want to make sure our homes and the health and fitness and organizations we're operating with are from a place of keeping sure that we understand memory. Memory can be good, memory can be bad if we allow it to get away from us, if we allow it to be ruled. We do not all want to be lost in the storm. We want to remain grounded, and the mineral is the thing that is grounded. It is connected to earth. It is a representation of the earth. So make sure your home is grounded. So back to our other two bones. Work is going to show that there is going to be a new beginning within this next period, new opportunity, thought of opening, because this is coming up as the top of the spinal bone. I'm not seeing the birthing aspect as it can also represent, but it's more about what's being opened. It's going to be more, you need to work with your intellect. We need to very much work for our intellect, not purely from the place of emotion. That's going to be there, and there's going to be support for there. So we need to really look at what is going on, and with our minds and then with our actions. Now, the events of Afghanistan, some would say, why are they not fighting for their future? Well, let's be frank. I also work in mental health, and one of the biggest things that we learn in dealing with trauma is that just because someone has now been freed, it doesn't mean they don't have wounds. It doesn't mean that they are immediately ready to take on the responsibilities of just living a life. It takes time, and it takes the aspect of relearning and re-engaging and reinforcing the idea that they now have whatever autonomy that was taken away from them. Now, even though right now choices have been made with Afghanistan, we're looking at those things as we move forward as well. What are the choices that are going to be made in relation to our work to bring new beginnings, to feed into autonomy, but also free choice? And choice is not the same as expectation. I'm going to say that again. Choice is not the same as expectation. So just because somebody expects you to make a decision that they think is a common sense one, doesn't mean it's common sense for you. If the experiences you have been through have shaped you around the sense of being cautious and afraid of your own choices and of your own power and autonomy. And that's one of the things we come back to here with the gun kirk. So long as a gunner had that with them, they had a certain degree of autonomy over their weapon. As soon as that gun kirk was gone, or the powder was wet, they lost the power that weapon provided them. So, how are you keeping your powder dry as you build in what you're doing out there to work and out there to bring something into the world? We also have the shell, which is an aspect of nature, and it is turned outward. So we're looking at, again, exterior forces. We're looking at nature. Nature's going to still continue, and I live here in California, so I expect we're still going to be in a bit of our fire season. But there's also going to be those that are going to be throwing things around. There is much that has happened both here in the country as well as, like we said, in Afghanistan. There's going to be a lot of finger pointing and a lot of points where we're going to need to have our shields up and protected. And spirit is here, but spirit is also at the edge. And spirit's not going to be there, not going to come in unless we invite it to help hold this shield in place. Then over here we get into the social, which is the closest proximity to the nature bone, which again, this sense of there's a lot of social energy, so a lot of social finger pointing that's going to happen. And again, we need to be operating from a place of what is good for our overall long-term health. Not just what it is today, not what it is tomorrow, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What is going to keep us fit? What is going to keep us in good organization? What is it going to mean to serve others? And how in that place do we act from bravery, act in the defense, and use our power wisely? And that's what we're getting here with both the family and the social bone, because there's going to be shifts in both the greater social aspects, but also shifts within the family. And even within the family, we have to be conscious of those who would point fingers, because they are lost in their idea of maintaining what they perceive, what little power they might have, or in the aspect of their pain means that they cannot take responsibility for it, and therefore they must make others take responsibility for what they cannot bear. We don't want to do that. That is not conducive for us in the long term. Each of us must bear a certain degree of our choices. And that's what's going to be here around this, supporting it. I mean, we even have the broken rib bone one I often say that looks like a crutch is here with family. And the choice is there, because family is going to shift, and family will shift. So over here, this one is coming in for winter. This is something that we're not going to be able to see until we get closer to the winter solstice. Now what it means, maybe a much harder winter than some expected. Where? That's a difficult question. But I would definitely say, again, make sure your home is in order. It has got good health. It means check the furnaces, check the windows, check the insulation. Make sure it's got the fitness that is going to be safe. Clear out those termites. Make sure the roofing's done. And make sure you're organized and ready to do what it needs to do to get you through the holiday season that's coming. So that's what we've got for you today. And on behalf of the ancestors, the Orishas, the Loas, and the gods, and the creator of all things, Ashe.